Manager, and I've been with Amista for 4 years. And this is our special guest today. I'm actually super excited. Dalton has worked in hospitality with us for quite a while. He came and started 2019 and did an amazing job. And then Dalton went off to France and got to learn all about wine. And Dalton's goal is to eventually be a winemaker.
One day. Yeah.
Yeah. So you guys are with an amazing person, since Ashley couldn't be here, but it's going to be kind of fun to hear from Dalton. And I love actually spying on his tastings because I learn a lot. Oh, yay. Hi, Sally. I don't see one more. So if it's okay with you guys, Dalton and I, this being a vertical of our flagship varietal, the Syrah, we are going to go from the 17 back to the 15. Based on how everything's tasting, the 15 is just amazing, but also big and wants you to pay attention to it. Really well bottle aged, all that good stuff. So we're going to start with the 17, which is the youngest and the newer release. It was released in October. And yeah, we're just waiting for one more, but if not, they can join as we're tasting and we'll fill them in.
Should we have 3 glasses or 1?
To you, Dalton and I have a jumper, or else we'll guzzle and, you know, chug.
I might get a couple more.
Totally up to you.
What about more?
Yeah, that just
One thing that's nice when you are doing a vertical, if you do have the ability to have 3 glasses, once we taste through them, it also allows you to go back and like compare side by side versus one being done. And then, because like even this midday, Dalton and I were tasting the wines for today, and I got another glass so that I could kind of smell all together rather than just one at a time. So it's totally up to you whether you choose to dirty both glasses or you want to use one.
because they don't give the other phone numbers. The Zoom ID is Zoom ID.
So can everybody can hear us okay?
Yeah, but they're
43 4988.
Okay.
3668.
Sally, are you guys almost ready?
Welcome to Verizon Wireless. Your call cannot be completed as dialed. Please check the number and dial again. Announcement. Welcome to Verizon Wireless. Your call cannot be completed as dialed.
Well, while we're waiting, I think we should sit.
That's not a phone number. That's an ID.
Okay, I think we're supposed to taste the first.
Let's have a little toast. Thank you for joining us.
Yes.
We're waiting for 1 or 2 more people, but once you have something in your glass, you got to start drinking. So cheers, everyone. So this should be the 17 Syrah. So anybody on right now, is this your first time tasting the 17? Yes, no, maybe. So so while we wait for Sally, if everybody doesn't mind, maybe introducing yourself. Amista stands for making friends, based on the word amistad in Spanish. So while we're getting situated and waiting for one more person who was supposed to join us, or maybe 2, how about we start with Teresa, and everybody just say a little blurb about you and how you came to Amista Vineyards. Introduce your whole group if you want.
That sounds great. So I'm Matt, we're from Boston. We were out in California when we got engaged and stopped by at Amista for sparklings. And we came across the GSM from 15 that we picked up when we got engaged. And this was the closest thing we could find to Trey. So we're doing it, but we're here with my mom and my in-laws and my father-in-law off camera.
Oh my gosh, that's a great story. Yeah, so Matt, I noticed this was your first order according to our information, but you knew of the brand. So yeah.
There's the ID. Say engineer.
Oh, got it.
Switch to active speaker.
Okay, I've already screwed up in that.
Sorry, guys, I'm trying to. Okay, so Dorothy, you go next.
My mouth is full.
Oh, of course.
Okay, well, I've been a friend and a member since before it even was a winery, so it's been a really cool journey to see how they've come along. We met them before they even had their little tasting room or anything built. They were just getting started. We had a little tasting stand outside in the vineyard before Passport, way back when.
Wow, I didn't realize that there was like a little tasting stand.
Yeah,
That's
it was just like
awesome.
a table with donuts or something, and then pouring wine. And
I love it. I love
one
it.
of those
Yeah.
morning meetings. So it's been a great journey, and they've been so friendly and so welcoming. And we actually,
Mike and Vicky, you're amazing. Dorothy, you've been with us since 2009. So that's like way back. Yeah, so you might have to tell us a little bit about some of the wines that Dalton and I haven't been able to try. So, well, it looks like Sally's still getting situated. I don't think she can hear us. So let's go ahead and get to talking about the 17. And hopefully Bridget and whoever else was going to join us make it. And if not, sometimes life happens. So yeah, let's hear from Dalton about the first of these 3 flagship wines of Amista Vineyard.
So just to start off, all of them are 100% Syrah. That's the only grape that is in this bottle. And Syrah is one of my favorites, so I'm stoked to be talking about this. And one of these vintages just happens to be my favorite bottle of wine we have here. So I was pretty excited to come on and talk about Syrah. So the first one we're tasting is our 17 Syrah. That is the baby of the group. Everything else has aged a bit longer. So it's a little bit younger, but it is really, really fresh and definitely ready to drink. It has these really nice kind of flavors of cherry and definitely strong vanilla. A lot of those are imparted by kind of the barrel regimen that it goes through. So it goes through French and American oak, and it ends up getting a various amount of neutral barrels as well as new barrels. So when it gets those new barrels, it tends to get a little bit more oakiness and toastiness in the wine, and kind of boasts the kind of powerfulness that the Syrah can put off. And it's very tasty in a lot of these. But the 17, I think, is a pretty light wine. We ended up picking at a lower sugar concentration compared to the other 2 we're about to try. So it tends to have a little bit higher of an acidity when you pick it earlier on and has less sugar in it, as well as a kind of lower just body in general. It's not as thick and powerful as the others can be.
So what do you guys think? It doesn't matter what we think. So 17 it's interesting because we are pouring some of our 19s already, But with our Cabernet Sauvignon and our Syrah, Ashley tends to keep those in barrel and age them a little bit more. But then in addition to the barrel aging, once she bottles the wine, she will keep it in bottle and let it bottle age before releasing. So these are usually wines that even if they're young and just newly released, they're pretty ready to go. But you're definitely going to get, it's fun to be able to do this because you'll really start to see how a wine changes with bottle aging, in addition to the differences and nuances it gets just from it being a different vintage, depending on weather, soil conditions, all that good stuff. Natural disasters, which seems to be what we're dealing with a lot here in California. So we're hoping for a very uneventful year, but we'll see. But the good news is all these wines were produced before there were no problems, even though in 17 was one of the first fires.
That
That
later in
wasn't till
October, though.
October.
And we picked the Syrah on September 29th. So we were a month cleared.
Yeah, it was completely protected in a closed facility in barrel, starting to work its magic. So, and what's interesting about Syrah, we giggle because of everything that's happened, but it tends to be described often as having a smoky finish. So we're like, well, good thing. But yeah, these three varietals, no impact whatsoever on the different California fire seasons that have happened in the last few years. So these are all definitely not going to be affected. So cheers.
I was gonna say that on the nose, I don't know. To me, it smells like a little bit like salami.
See? Once somebody says that though, then I immediately get it. And just very suggestible.
It doesn't taste like it, but you sort of, I don't know. It's like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I definitely, like Dalton was saying, it's on the lighter side right now. I'm not sure if I tasted this without knowing what it was, I might be hesitant to say it was a Syrah just because it's lighter right now and our Syrahs tend to be a little bigger. But what's fun is tasting this now in 6 months to a year, it will continue to develop in bottle and hopefully it'll end up being, once we get to the 15, you'll see how velvety and great that becomes with some bottle aging. So this is not over yet. So any more comments? Or are we ready to move on to the 16? There's no hurry. Poor Sally seems to be having very big technical difficulties, but I love their perseverance.
So one of you touched on the fire seasons in 17 being later. What
Yes.
about the 18, the more current vintages of this? Were those affected by any of the events in those years?
So 18 was
18 and 19, I believe, were not affected because they kind of started still around October. The Syrahs tend to be picked earlier on, as well as most of our varietals. Plus, we do a lot of sparkling, so those are picked way in August. But 2020 was just the craziest fire season. It started all the way in August, and we had a deep conversation with Ashley, our winemaker, about what is going to happen and like what she has seen in the wines. And I think so far she has not really seen anything except for in 2 of our wines, our Cab and our Zin. However, she really told us, if anything has it, I will not release it. So you can be safe assured from us that we're going to be putting stuff out that doesn't have that quality to it.
Yeah, that we want you to drink and enjoy, not like we're not covering up smoke taint or whatever.
And luckily, smoke taint comes about mostly in red wines, and we do a big production of sparkling, as well as Chardonnay and Rosé. So those wines won't see any of that impact at all. So those are totally okay, which is great.
Yeah, so up until 2020, we had finished harvest before any of the smoke from whether we were in, the fires were nearby, or like the year Paradise, we got smoke from those fires that blew south toward us. But what happened was we had already finished harvest. So because Amista Vineyards is kind of the sparkling house of Dry Creek Valley, our main focus when Amista started was still wines. And then we ended up becoming a sparkling house because we do all our estate grown wines as sparkling wines. And we do it with intention. So we're picking early with lower bricks, which is the sugar levels. And that'll start sometimes the first week in August, really early. I've been here when it started as late as the third week in August, but mostly it's usually beginning August. So the fruit, like say half of the Syrah goes toward the sparkling. Same with the Grenache, Mourvedre, and Chardonnay. Those are all in. Ashley's processed them. They're in tank, definitely, if not getting ready to go to the next phase where they're fermented in bottle. So then she'll pick, and the next thing that's usually ready is the Chardonnay for the still wines. And that was also picked and finished prior to the 2020 fire. So the only year we're really worried about is 2020 right now. That would have been a direct impact because the fire started in August and there was smoke and things like that. But it was interesting because all the wineries were affected. So everybody was trying to get testing done through labs. And there was no way we could all get our answers back. There were just too much demand. But Ashley, she's been here 12 harvests now? Or 15?
11. This will be 12. I think.
Okay. So she's had that many harvests with us. So she knows these wines and she knows this fruit. And so she would do what's called a micro ferment. So a small test on the wines to see what was happening. And so far, everything she's tasting, even now that things are in barrel, like she said, and like Dalton explained, as she's watching the wines, and if something comes up, we won't release it. But as of right now, we should have some 2020s. We definitely will have the sparkling. We actually made extra rosé. So we're going to have 2 rosés. So we're going to have a new rosé release of a rosé of Grenache September 1st. And then so when the reds start coming out, we'll let you know. So, but we're really excited that we think we'll be able to have a pretty good selection of 2020 varietals. So
That's great to hear.
yeah, it was crazy. Yeah, so hang in there. Don't give up on wine or wine country. And if you were here now, I mean, it's hard to see because of the lighting, but we're actually sitting outside on our solar covered patio with the vineyards. And we even have guests here still because we close at 4:30. So it's a gorgeous day in wine country. So come all the way out from Boston. Just hop in, just stop by. Dorothy, now you're our neighbor in Napa, so we know you get to stop by, and I have your
Coming by.
reservation all set. And Sally's in Arizona. Can you guys see us or hear us? Oh, they're muted. I'll unmute them.
So what is the tasting situation like out there? Is everyone open for tastings? Is it starting to become more normal or?
Yeah, no, hang on just a second. Let me see what I did. So everybody's open for a while. Some people were open. What did I do? Oh, there we are. So a lot of the wineries are open. Many are reservation only, including us. But by reservation only, it really just means if you know you're coming, let us know so we can reserve your table. Because on Saturdays and Sundays, the demand has gotten so big that we actually do fill up. Because we have, a limited amount of tables and we want everybody to be comfortable and have plenty of time with our team. So we want to staff accordingly and all that good stuff. But midweek, we're still pretty good. So literally, if you know 5 minutes before you're going to come and you give us a call, or you drive up and say, hey, we wondered if we could come, we'll put in a reservation for you. Most other wineries are in the same boat and they're reservation only, and they're just now starting to go back to 7 days a week. But we've been at 7 days a week since we were able to reopen. We were closed for a few weeks again, December, January, and then we reopened and we've been open 7 days a week ever since. So I'm trying to see, let's see if we can get Sally's group to be able to hear them. Let me see. Oh, they do hear us. Okay, good. So did you guys get to try the 17 Syrah? Yeah, somebody held up a glass. So yeah, we're kind of going backwards with 17, then we'll do the 16 next, and then we'll end with the 15. So this is our youngest wine, and I'm ready to try the 16. The 16's always been one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
like this, what I know his favorite, so I'm not gonna.
I'm biased, but
So I still have work to do, so I'm gonna dump. I know it seems wrong, but 16. Do you have some?
yes.
Yes. Okay. So enjoy. Take. Oh no. As with the farm light. So if any of you have extra glasses and are doing them side by side, like check the color, compare if one's deeper, darker, richer. Some tend to be more on the reddish side, on the brownish side. Are you photobombing? This is one of our Great Wine Club members, Matt, and he's photobombing and getting in, although he's drinking Chardonnay, so we should kick him out. See, we're all having fun here. We need you all to come also visit in person now that things are getting safe again. So
Yeah, so just to walk you through some kind of winemaking processes that we go through when we're making the Syrah, just to give you kind of a behind the scenes of it. When we pick the grapes, we tend to pick them in the morning. That way the grapes are a little bit cooler and it kind of preserves flavors. If you pick them later in the day, it's kind of odd to think about, but it gets hotter and the grapes actually kind of retract a little bit of juice in them back into the vine. So when you do it in the morning, they are a little bit more plump and have more in them. So we tend to pick them in the morning, and we do that harvested by hand. Now what we'll do is we'll take it over to the winery we do custom crush at, which is Amista Vineyards down the street. And we will crush them and let the juice sit with the skins for 4 days. And what this is called is a cold soak. So basically this cold soak will enable the juice to start soaking up a lot of the color and flavors from the skins. But this is actually before the fermentation actually begins. So it starts mainly pulling out just these really light, nice like cherry flavors. And then after about 4 days, what we do is we inoculate the juice with a yeast, and it will start the fermentation process. And we will also do this on the skins as well. So we'll do that for about 11 days on top of the 4 days. So we get a good about 2 weeks worth of skin to juice contact time. And that really just pulls up so many different flavors and color. And when you're fermenting on the skins, they tend to pull a lot of flavors from the actual skins and kind of convert them into new things and new flavors. So that's where we do get a lot of those nice cherry notes from. And then, like I said, we do put it through that barrel regimen of 25% French and American oak that are new barrels, and the remainder is kind of neutral oak barrels. But this one's great. It's definitely much lighter compared to the next one we will try. It's got this kind of nice bright red fruits to it, but I actually get a little bit of a chocolate taste to it as well, like dark chocolate. So this one's great. Definitely good for like a heavier meal, like some tri-tip or something like that.
So I have a question. When you say you're inoculating it with yeast, I picture like a cake of yeast, like you're going to make bread with, but obviously that's not the same thing. So what does it look like, the yeast that you put in there?
Well, actually, so there's dry yeast, which literally looks like yeast you use for baking. Like I baked some bread the other day and it looked exactly like yeast that you could use for something else. But yeah, it's just a yeast that they have kind of gotten a hold of, and they've been able to like make a singular culture of it, and then they mass produce it and package it up. But you could have it as a dry yeast, and a lot of yeasts end up kind of gearing towards a certain style that you'd like. So some people, they tend to use yeast that might put off kind of a pear flavor or something a lot heavier or lighter, things that can like lend to your wine. So winemakers will then kind of choose which yeast they want to do. Or you can actually do a natural fermentation, which is what we do with our Chardonnays. And you can just use yeast that is naturally present around us. So we have yeast on our bodies, in the vineyards, on the floor, just kind of everywhere. So with our Chardonnay, Ashley actually puts that through a natural ferment, and it has billions of yeast cultures that just start fermenting and putting off their own unique kind of qualities to the wine. So there's many ways of winemaking and so much science behind it. But yes, you can use little dry yeasts, and you most of the time can just throw it into the wine. But what they like to do is kind of start up a yeast culture. So they'll add the dry yeast to a bucket of warm water with a little bit of juice, and that will kind of activate that yeast and start fermenting a little bit. And then you'll add some more water, and that'll start fermenting a little bit more. And then what you'll do is pitch that into the big tank, and then that'll start the entire fermentation process. So that right there is kind of a way of waking the yeast up.
So is there like a catalog of yeasts that you guys look through and you choose what you want?
There's definitely like yeasts, like forgetting the name of the company, Anna, I think. went to work for them.
Yeah. So there's a lab. What's it called?
There's a Scott Laboratories.
Scott Labs.
They have a bunch of different yeasts. So I was just looking at one the other day, and it happened to be for Syrah, but you can kind of pick a yeast culture that is good for certain varietals and kind of stylistic flavors and aromas and mouthfeels that you want to go for, that those yeasts tend to like put off. So there are like a list you can kind of choose from.
So do you guys tend to use the same one for the same wine, or do you use different ones in each year?
I guess we don't know.
So it's interesting because I definitely know Ashley uses a different yeast for the sparklings. And what we learned, literally, that's what's fun about wine, is you're learning all the time, constantly. But we learned when we were tasting with her on these last new releases that came out for our May wine clubs, that about the Chardonnay and how she actually likes to use it naturally and let it do its thing. And I had no clue. So I think sometimes, winemakers are making those decisions, and that's why you tend to go to a winery and fall in love with their wines, because that style and approach to wine by that winemaker suits your palate.
So I think
Yeah.
for each varietal, she's done something different. So with these, I believe she like puts a yeast into the wine. With the Chardonnay, she went with a wild fermentation, and with the sparkling wines, I don't know if this is how she does it, but I know that there are like champagne yeasts that you can use directly for sparkling wines, because they tend to put off kind of better flavors and something to do with bubbles, I believe.
So So actually, you should speak to it a little bit while we're finishing up our 16, if you guys don't mind. But I'd love to have Dalton tell you about his experience and how he became like our little assistant winemaker almost. Like he knows this stuff. It's been so fun for the guests to come visit because he'll take them out in the vineyard and talk about the fruit and tell them at what point, you know, the vines in the vineyard is in. We had bud break, now the canopy's filling in, and we're starting to get some fruit. I was shocked at how much Chardonnay.
Yeah, our grapes, they went through like a flowering period. Now they're going through, it's called swelling. And so they're basically, they've self-pollinated themselves, and now they're starting to kind of swell from this tiny little bead to like these little berries now. And if you make your way out here, you'll see they're starting to get into their clusters, which is cool.
So tell us a little bit about what you did when you left Amista temporarily.
So I actually worked here in 2019 for about, I would say, half the year. And then in August, I took off to Bordeaux, France, and went and studied over there and got my bachelor's degree in winemaking and viticulture. So I got to go over there and learn more than what I ever thought I'd be able to learn in the wine, about winemaking and a little bit about their culture and how they do things over in France. And then after I finished that, I came back and I did a almost a year-long internship with Francis Ford Coppola Winery on their viticulture team. I took part in those little mini fermentations to analyze smoke taint for them. We did probably 200 micro fermentations, and then I went and worked in their cellar for a little bit, and then I came back here.
Yay! I'm thrilled. He's going to probably journey again because he's going into a different part of, he's going to be more of a winemaker and work in the cellar and stuff like that. So you're about to do another internship with?
Yeah. So I got a harvest internship with Costa Brown Winery in Sebastopol, which is just south of us here. They do mostly Pinot Noirs and Chardonnays, but I've heard a great company to work for, and I get to work in the cellar and do a little more winemaking, which is fun.
But he'll still be part of the Amista family and is promising me at least weekends. So, yeah. So are we, any more comments on the 16 and the differences that you might have noticed between that and the 17? I always think the 16 is the one that really gives me the most fruit on it. But honestly, this morning when we first opened it, tons of fruit. But now that it's had some time to air out and develop, now that it's been open and the oxygen has hit it, it's different. So that's another thing about wine is you can open it and try it, and then, you know, half an hour later it's changed. And then if you save it till the next day, you still have a great wine, but it might be completely different. So it's interesting when you're opening your wine, never give up on it. Sometimes we open something and we're like, but then later on it's amazing and it's spot on. So I need some 15 too.
Yeah, I think it's pretty fruity, but I did just open mine a little while ago, so.
Yeah, I noticed that too, Dorothy. When I first opened the 16, I really love it. I love to pick up that huge fruit profile. And I remember when it first released, it was like a big fruit gusher, but it's definitely bottle aged and smoothed that out a bit. Trying to go for a small taste. So we've put the 15 in our glass if you guys want to join us, whether it's a new glass or same glass.
This one, I think you'll all get a kick out of. It's pretty powerful and just has a lot going on in the wine. And it's my number one favorite here.
He's basically just been waiting for this one.
I guess I feel like 2015 was a great year for Napa and Sonoma wine.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So it's like not just this one, a lot of 2015s.
Well, the 2015 Syrah that we're about to try is amazing. Our 2015 cab that we have, I popped it open earlier and it was just incredible. And I'm definitely about to talk a little bit about why it ended up being so great in a second. But
Yeah. So I noticed first thing on this, the color being different than the other two. And now does color change the older it gets?
yes. So if you'll ever look at like, let's say a Pinot Noir, that's a very kind of easy wine to look at because it's a little bit clearer compared to this, it's much darker. But when it's younger, it's going to have a very vibrant, like pink and purple color. And as it goes on, it starts to oxidize a little bit, even though it's in bottle. And it starts to turn this kind of like brick, kind of orange, like color. And that's just a little bit of a sign of aging. And it's not necessarily a bad thing at all. It's just kind of what the bottle's at that point. And that's how it's aging in the bottle. And it has its good qualities, maybe some bad ones, but yeah, color totally changes over time and starts turning more of that orange, brown, brick looking color.
Yeah, I definitely noticed that on this one.
So the 2015 is probably one of my more favorite ones to talk about. So as you were saying, 2015 was just like awesome everywhere. Even when I was in Bordeaux, France, they wouldn't like stop talking about the year 2015. It was their best year as well. So I think everywhere it just was pretty great. That's because surprisingly, one thing that lends really well to the vines is stress and like droughts kind of, which you'd think, oh, we probably don't want droughts here because we don't want as many fires, and we don't. But the droughts do kind of help stress the vines. And I always kind of talk about a little analogy about the birds and the vines. So birds, they naturally want to go and eat fruit if they're nice and tasty. So in a year like 2015, the vines are super stressed. It's incredibly hot out. They're not getting as much water. And we luckily are able to manipulate how much water it can get when it's dry, so we can add more or add less. But during times of drought and stress, the vine goes into a kind of a mode of like, oh no, I'm going to die. And they start getting all stressed out. And when they think they're going to die, they end up allocating any sort of resources they have into making sure that one, the grape has amazing color and amazing flavors because of those birds. Now, if there were some very sour and green looking grapes, the birds aren't going to go eat them. They're disgusted by them. But if they're tasty, they're sugary, they've got a lot of color, the birds are going to go and they're going to start eating them like crazy. So this year was super, super hot, and the vines basically went through that mode of, okay, we got to make sure our grapes taste and look great so the birds can get them. But we did
They like
instead.
the birds. They don't mind.
But we got the grapes instead. So birds didn't get them. So it lends a lot to the color. Tammy was saying like it's really dark. It is dark / kind of brick kind of colored, but that's because it's so concentrated that it has so much color in there. So when you have those heavier years and heavier wines, it's probably because it was a pretty stressful year.
I usually don't do well under stress, so I should learn from wine.
The 2016 looks browner to me than all of them.
Yeah. See, I should have done like I was saying and had the 3 here, but I didn't want to be unable to proceed with the Zoom.
Yeah, the 2015 for me has the strongest taste of cherry and vanilla, but at the end I kind of get like a slight licorice taste to it, which I've never personally gotten before, and I'm kind of digging it right now.
I was going to say almond.
Almond?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all right. There's no wrong answer. I think that's what's fun about wine is you tend to have like sensory memories when you're tasting it. And I've had weird experiences tasting wine. Like all of a sudden things pop into my head that I may have never even been a fan of, but all of a sudden it's like, yeah, it's like that candy bar. It's like this. And it's like, it might not even be something I've had since, when I was in middle school,
And it's
literally.
totally associated with memory. I took one of my classes in France was about sensory analysis and like, what do you smell? And my teacher would hand us these little kind of almost perfume like little like sampler strips, and we would go and smell them and try to guess the scent. And she handed my whole class this one scent called Moltol. And to me, it smelled like maple syrup. To my friend from France, it smelled like almonds. And to my friends from Asia, specifically China, they all smelled curry. And so when we all kind of guessed those aromas and flavors and kind of said what we thought they smelled like, she told us it has to do with kind of how you grew up, what you used to eat. And in those Asian cultures, they kind of ate more curry. We ate more maple syrup, just like sugary type stuff. And over in Europe, they had more kind of like marzipan, almond type stuff. So it's totally based on taste perception and just like kind of what your history is. And I always tell people, if you've never had strawberries before, you're never going to taste strawberries and anything. So it's just all on kind of experience and memory and what you've been through.
Yeah, it's really personal. It's like music or art. People are drawn to certain things, and there's no explanation for it, yet there is an explanation for it because it's just your life experience that has brought you, the thoughts you have about whatever it is you're enjoying.
Well, that's interesting because my mom is German, and so we were brought up on marzipan. So
Yeah.
There you go, Dorothy. That was perfectly executed.
yep.
How interesting. Yeah, that's very interesting. So what do you guys think? Dalton says this is his favorite. Have we decided on a favorite? I think everybody should say what they enjoyed the most today, which I will tell you, you might change your mind in a week, but today, what was the favorites?
Yeah, mine was the 15. I think there's a couple of votes for that here.
It's not a contest, Dalton. He's like, yeah.
It's all right.
See, he knows I kind of like the 16, so he wants everybody to vote for the 15.
Oh, Teresa voted for the 16. I kind of like the 16.
Oh, okay, good. I have one too. Dorothy, what do you think?
It's funny because now I'm going back because I have them all in 3 glasses. And I'm getting a weird like coffee flavor in the 16.
I noticed when I had the 16 just now, it was totally different than when I tasted it earlier.
You
Yeah,
said
like-
toffee or coffee?
Coffee.
Coffee. That can definitely be associated with like the barrel aging, because we do put it through new oak, so it gets a lot more of those coffee and toffee, as well as the smoke and a lot of charred type things. So I definitely associate with that. And Syrah itself tends to put off those like heavier types of aromas.
So Matt, are you glad you took a chance?
Oh yeah, well, I mean, we had the tray from 15, so.
Oh wait, there's a plane going over. We can't hear you. Hang on. This is live. So yeah, I don't know. Let's see. Is it?
so-
Okay, try now. We just turned it up.
Yeah, so in terms of the tray we had was 15, so that was really good. And like I said, the 15 Syrah was the closest we could get to something from that vintage. So yeah, I mean, I'm not too surprised that I'm liking this, but oh yeah, no, the 16s and 17s, it's nice to try, kind of where they fall, in the sequence and kind of see what the different vintages, or at least how they're currently tasting.
Yeah, no, I'm glad that the trace has been so successful and popular that right now we are only left with one vintage of the trace. We completely sold out of all the previous years. So right now we're pouring the 19, and that was just released in February. We sold out of the 18, we sold out of the 17, The 15 is just a faint memory for us in the tasting room. And sadly, I keep trying to remind myself, don't drink all your wine because we'll sell out and then you won't have any more. So I'm trying to get better at it, but I literally don't even have any 15 left because I loved it so much I couldn't not open it. So yeah. What?
Am I remembering a 14 cab that was really good?
We still have some.
Well,
I think,
so
in
there's
library.
a secret on that one. Yes, we went back to doing the Rockpile Cab. For those of you familiar with the Rockpile AVA in Sonoma County, very well known, very small AVA, known for its minerality, usually on steep hillsides by Lake Sonoma. And so the first year we went back to doing Rockpile was the 14th. So we saved, I think, 20 cases and we libraried it, like we aged it for everyone. So it was in our warehouse. It's been in our warehouse all this time where it's perfectly temperature controlled and there's nothing affecting it other than just letting the wine do its thing. So we're going to be re-releasing that 14 cab and checking in on it to see how it bottle aged, because when I came, we were doing the 08s and the 9s, and I've been here 4 years. So you can see those were really well bottle aged and they were phenomenal. I mean, those people who are smarter than me that actually hold their wines a long time and are patient, not me, but they are having some amazing experiences with those cabs and going way back even to 05. So, but yeah, I'm so glad you guys got to try another 15. We sold out of all the, what 15s? We don't have anything. Like the Zin was great, all of
We
it.
still have the cab. I don't know.
Yeah,
much, but
the cab.
The cab's awesome. If you guys over there in Boston ever get to try it, it's pretty exceptional. It's my second favorite.
So, and Sally, you guys are on mute, but we want to hear from you if you've learned something or found a new favorite wine or what your favorite Syrah was if you tried the whole vertical.
Oh, we
Hey,
really
there you
like-
are.
There we are. We really like the 16.
Some of us.
No.
Yay, ha ha. Yeah.
We either like it 15 or 17.
Yeah. That's
One thing that I do always remind myself when I do a vertical is if I had only been able to try one of them, I probably would have loved it, but it's so fun and decadent to try the different varietals and really dig into what you love about it and choose your favorite. But then again, if I went home and somebody gave me a 17 Syrah, I'd be like, oh, great. I like it. So, yay. So what's everybody doing tonight? It's Friday night. Are we just going to drink all these wines and regret it in the morning?
Got a
regrets.
new recipe to try for dinner. So,
Oh, very fun.
What are you cooking?
well, let me look. It's in fact, it would probably go really well with this. It's called, I get these recipe things online every now and then. They're just like, try this. So it says picadillo, spice up your weekly meal routine with this Cuban classic. So I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
But it looks good. Bunch of stuff.
That
there. It's
looks
all
like it
backward.
would work with Syrah.
Say
Very
it's
nice.
got beef in it, and that's
It's got beef.
great thing. Great thing to pair.
Yeah.
Yay.
beef, bell peppers, beer. It's got beer in it, but whatever. Tomatoes, coriander, cumin, all this good stuff. So we'll see.
So Sally's in Arizona, right, Sally? And then, so you guys on the East Coast, what are you dealing with right now, like weather-wise and all that? And I know your time is later than ours.
It's actually beautiful here. So like at the beginning of the week, it was like 90 degrees, like very hot and humid, but now we're back down to like 60s, 70s. So it's really nice.
This is the ideal,
East Coast weather.
yeah, New England weather, which will shortly change to some form of unpleasantness. So
Yeah, we had a nice break in the heat. We haven't had enough rain this year, which, you know, we're in another drought, which is going to make for great wines. Luckily, we're in the right business. But it's been funny because it got really hot early and we were concerned, but then we've had a nice break and it's a lot cooler, but I guess the heat is going to return and it might be in the 90s, even 100 next week. But we have a drier heat, but it's still a bit much when it gets like that. So
California still have a lot of COVID restrictions, or has it opened up?
There's talks about next week being the day
the
where
15th
we
is
don't
supposed
have to
to
wear
be.
masks, but I'm sure that'll change the day of. It's changed constantly. But I think it's been
Most of our team is vaccinated, completely
a
vaccinated.
lot of Sonoma County
Yeah.
itself is. So we've opened up quite a bit.
That's why we're not masked.
I don't
We're
even know
safe.
what tier we're on, but
Yeah, no, we're just trying to make sure we follow whatever's required so that we don't have to close again.
yeah.
Yeah, last year, you know, was a lot because we were closed for the pandemic. Then we were closed for power outages because rolling power outages in preparation for fires. And then the fires, and then we were closed, and then, you know, so we're like, we'll do whatever we need to do. Just let us stay open and share wine and share these beautiful vineyard views. I don't know if it's getting easier to see, but yeah, it's been gorgeous here. So
How is it over in Boston?
aside from, well, you said it cooled down. What's the summer
Actually
to do there?
They actually eliminated all the COVID restrictions right before Memorial Day.
Really?
Like, yeah, pretty shocking, because I feel like the governor was like pretty conservative throughout the whole pandemic, and then all of a sudden, no regulations. But actually, we're
But
still
it
doing
hasn't,
in terms of the number of cases, so we haven't seen an uptick yet.
that's good. Good.
Restrictions are supposed to only be if you vaccinated, but nobody checks if you vaccinated or not. We're all vaccinated.
That's
Right.
the thing here is, you know, how are you actually gonna shake people down and be like, are you vaccinated?
We could wear those. I don't know if you guys have the giant cards, wear them around
Yeah.
our neck.
Get some lanyards. That'll be our new gift with purchase.
On his arm. And then he says for the booster shots, he's gonna get like a new line for.
Yeah. Well, we're so glad you guys could join us for this. We have had so much fun with the virtual tastings, and it's something we're going to continue because we want to be able to meet and taste with our guests all over the United States. And those who don't, oh, another photo bomber. This is Kim. Say hi to Kim. Kim and Matt came and played games on her day off and drank
That's
wine
right.
with us
A little bit
today.
of cribbage and I won.
Oh, I see.
And you know, my daughter's back in Peekskill, New York. So she also wishes she could be out here, and we really think you should come on out anytime you can. We're very welcoming here in California, and on June 15th, we hope to be open a little bit more, right?
Like you guys.
Right.
Yeah.
We're very good out here, over 70% vaccinated. I'm in healthcare, and everybody is doing their thing out here. So get out here and enjoy the wine country. We love it out here.
We've been so lonely, can you tell?
Well, I
So
have a
yes.
I have another question. So
Mhm.
now I have these 3 bottles of wine that I've opened. And I do have one of those vacuum sealer things. So how long can they keep, assuming it's just me that's drinking them?
Well, first off, you better drink fast. But secondly, if you vacuum seal them, let's say you open up one, the next day it'll obviously get another like influx of oxygen, but I think it could last a couple days, like 3 days. So
I better get busy.
yeah, maybe you cook with some, you know.
Part of it too, I notice in the tasting room is if you seal them up, if you have several toppers that you can vacuum seal, if you're not opening it and then sealing it every night, because you have one glass and then you seal it again, it stays longer than if you're, so in the tasting room, sometimes on a slower day, we might not reopen one of the wines that were sealed. If it's a wine club only wine or something, maybe no wine club members came in. So it'll last a little longer. And then the wines like the Cab and the Syrah tend to last longer too. So you're at least drinking the right wine, Dorothy, to give you time and some,
Okay, so
a
it's
little
better if
extra
I just-
time.
It's better if I just do one at a time and not do a little 3.
Yeah.
Like probably don't do the vertical every night, like,
Yeah.
cause then they're gonna poop out quicker.
Okay.
What I usually tell people, and this goes with opened bottles as well as like aging bottles. People always say like, "Oh, you aged Cab for a very long time," and same with Syrah, because it was a very certain reason, and that's because of all the tannins and color molecules in the wine. Those are antioxidants, so those prevent against oxidizing and the wine oxidizing really quickly. So that's why they say you can set a Cab down for 6 to 10 years, compared to like a Pinot Noir, which you have to drink within a couple of years. And that's because of like the body of it, and Pinot Noirs have less tannins, and anthocyanins are the color molecules. So they have less antioxidants protecting it against oxygen. So that goes with like a closed bottle as well as with the open bottles, is they've got a little more protecting it. So the Syrahs can protect it a little bit more.
So, yeah, that was a really good question. I'm learning things too. Thank you, Dalton. So,
Does it help to refrigerate them?
I've heard like mixed things. I heard one time that it doesn't, but I did not look into it at all, so I don't know. I think you're probably okay just keeping a vacuum sealed on the counter.
I mean, I have a wine little fridge too that keeps them at 55. So
That'll probably be okay.
yeah. Yeah, and that's another thing is sometimes, who's the one that's chilling the Grenache right now when they serve it?
Chris.
It's Chris, yeah. So one thing is always fun to do is try wines at different temperatures. Even the reds can be more chilled. Some you want to bring more to room temperature. And Chris is in the tasting room right now, and he's loving our 18 Grenache, a little more on the chilled sides. So he'll keep some chilled, and then he'll let people taste it more at room temperature versus chilled. And I find that a lot with white wines. Sometimes you almost want the whites to come to room temperature, and it completely changes it. You might get more floral or.
I was going to say, I hate to admit this, but I like my whites warm.
No, it's true. It gives it a totally different.
A lot more flavors are brought about when it's warmer, and the cold kind of keeps it suppressed a little bit. So you'll get a lot more when it's like a little bit warmer.
So Sally, Matt and company, any last thoughts?
No, we appreciate you guys running doing the vertical tasting. I thought that was a great tasting option. So
We love stuff like that.
Oh, that was great. It was very, very helpful to do the vertical. Thank you.
Oh, good. Well, we thank you all for joining us. The next virtual tasting we have coming up is more of a game night. So we'll be tasting wine, but we'll mostly be trying to win at bingo. Dorothy, I know you're going to play, and we have other people playing. So if any of you want to, if you're feeling lucky, we'll have bingo coming up at the end of the month. I think it's on the 25th. And then if you guys ever want to do something privately for family and friends, I know a lot of us are starting to travel again, and that's great, but a lot of people are also able to just gather. One of the nice things is you can use our Zoom account, which allows you a long session, unlimited time. And we can set you up with family and friends, and you guys are welcome to do a virtual tasting with us. And then we kind of bow out and let you just have a social hour together. So lots of options. And then, of course, now that we're thriving again in Sonoma County, we hope you can all come back to our tasting room and meet our amazing team. Yeah, I'll make Dalton hang around, even though he's got other things going on. So yeah, and if any of you are interested, I have some not great news. Now that we've tasted these amazing wines, I will say that the 15 Syrah, I think we're down to our last 4 cases. I think, so when we planned these virtuals, it was months ago, and we didn't realize how successful and how busy it would get. We didn't know what
I
was
poured
ahead.
it a lot. That's what happened. I poured it a lot.
So the 15, I think, is 4 cases. The 16, this is really scary, 21 bottles. That's all we have left. And then the 17, our newest release, we're good. And I think you're gonna fall in love with that one just as much as the 15 and 16 after a little bottle aging. But if any of you wanna grab a few last bottles before these are gone, let me know. I'm available at Tammy@AmistaVineyards.com. We have a great website that I hope is user-friendly, but if not, just call us. Dalton's in the tasting room all weekend. So he'll be here to help as well. And yeah, we hope that we will see you or sip with you again very soon. And we thank you for joining us, and reach out if there's anything we can do or you come up with new questions. Yeah. Okay, good. Good night, everybody. Thank you so
Good
much.
night.
Happy,
Thank
have
you.
a great
All of you.
weekend.
Thank you.